Hey all, today we're going to begin talking about factoring polynomials, and the first method we are going to use is by factoring out what we call a GCF. That stands for greatest common factor. And so greatest means the largest, common means we are able to find it in every part of our polynomial, and factor means basically what do we use to multiply to get that thing. And so if we look here at the first one, this is a polynomial with two terms. Both terms have an n and both terms have numbers. And so what we're trying to figure out is what is the biggest number and what's the biggest version or biggest power with n as its base that we can divide both of these things by evenly. And so it's probably easiest to start with the letters, even though that might be the thing that would scare you off. So at the end of this, we're going to have a parentheses. We're going to have something outside here. That's the thing we're going to divide both of these things by. And then we're going to have something in here. That's what we have left once we do our division. And so if I look at my powers first, so n to the third and n to the fifth, we're always going to divide by the smallest power in each term. So the smaller one is n to the third, so I'm going to divide both by n to the third. And so I'm going to, whatever I am dividing each of these by, I'm going to put outside my parentheses here. So I'm building my answer as I go. Then I want to know the largest number I can divide 35 and 14 by, and some of this is going to be a bit of trial and error, but I know I can divide them both by 7. And so again, I'm going to put that over here. And so this is my greatest common factor. This is the thing that I can divide out of all of my terms. And so that becomes one of my factors of this polynomial. My second factor is going to be what I get once I do this division. So I'm going to divide 35 by 7 and get 5. I'm going to divide n to the third by n to the third. Those cancel, so there's no n there. I'll bring my minus sign down. 14 divided by 7 is 2. N to the 5 divided by n to the third. We subtract the bigger one minus the smaller one, 5 minus 2, so that gives us n to the second power. And so 7n to the third is our greatest common factor. And these are our two factors of this original polynomial. Two numbers that multiply to make this original polynomial. 7n to the third being the thing that is part of both of them. So we can do the same process here. I'm going to have a parentheses. I want to divide each of these things by the same number. So if you look here, this 24 term doesn't have an n. So there is no power I can divide all of these by. So my greatest common factor is not going to have an n in it. So I'm going to move on to the numbers now. Again, this could be some trial and error. I can divide all these numbers by 2. I can divide them all by 4. I can also divide them all by 8, and that is the biggest number, the greatest number that I can divide all of those by. And so 8 is my greatest common factor. So if I were to ask you just what is the greatest common factor, you would tell me 8. And then that comes down here. Inside the parentheses is going to be what I get when I divide the numbers by 8. So 24 divided by 8 is 3. 64 divided by 8 is 8. And that n is still there because I couldn't divide it out. I'm bringing my signs down. 24 divided by 8 again is 3. And that n to the fourth is still there because I'm not dividing by n. So 8 is my greatest common factor. 8 times 3 plus 8n minus 3n to the fourth is my factored version of this polynomial. Let me do one more. Again, I'm going to set myself up with the parentheses. I'll make it nice and big because I have 4 terms. My greatest common factor is going to go down here in front of the parentheses. I'll start with the letters. I have an x to the 4th, an x to the 3rd, an x squared, and an x to the 1st. I'm always going to divide by my smallest power. My smallest power is x to the 1st, so I'm going to divide them all by x to the 1st, and that means I put an x down here. Now I need to figure out what is the biggest number I can divide all of these 4 numbers by. I can divide them all by 2. I can do better than that. I can divide them all by 4. I think maybe I can do better than that. Let's see, 40 I can divide by 8. 12, if I divide by 8, I'm going to get a decimal, so that's too big. So my biggest number I can divide all these by is 4. Again, this is going to take some trial and error. And you want to make sure that the thing you're saying you can divide them all by will work. So my greatest common factor is 4x. And now I go through and I actually do this division. 40 divided by 4 is 10. X to the 4th divided by x to the 1st, I do 4 minus 1, which gives me x to the 3rd. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 3 minus 1 is x squared. And I'm bringing all my signs down. That's how I'm getting my signs here. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 2 minus 1 is x to the 1st. I'm just going to write it as x. 40 divided by 4 is 10. And then x divided by x, those cancel, so there's no x term there. So 4x is my greatest common factor. And then this is my factored version of the polynomial. So if you tried these and you got stuck or you don't understand what I did here, please do make sure you ask for help before you go on to the you try problems. But if you're ready to go, there's 2 problems here. Try them, and then the answers will pop up. If you get either one of them wrong, one or both, please do raise your hand and ask for help before you move on to the practice. So check your answers here. If you got one or both of them wrong, again, please do ask for help before you move on to the practice. If you got them both right, well done. And you should move on to the practice as well. Make sure at any point if you get stuck, please do ask for help. There are 8 of them here. If you need any help, I'm glad to do so. Take your time on these and good luck.